Today we're going to be learning about direct variation. If two variables vary directly, that means that they are proportional. So in order to solve them, we will set up a proportion and find the missing or unknown part of it. If we set up a proportion, we're always going to put the y on top of the x, okay? So the y is the known, the x is the known here, and it depends on which value is unknown. Sometimes we will have an unknown y value, and that will go on the top of the second fraction. Sometimes we'll have an unknown x value, and that will go on the bottom. In order to solve a proportion, the first step is to cross multiply. And then the second step is to divide. Okay, and that will give us our answer. So if we look over here to this first example, if y equals 4 when x equals 6, okay, so remember our y will be on the top, x will be on the bottom. So our y is 4 when our x is 6. Find the value of y when x is 18. So we're going to leave that y there because we don't know what it is yet. We're looking for it, and then our x will be 18. Okay, and so we are going to cross multiply in order to solve this. 6 times y, right, is 6y. 4 times 18 is 72. Okay, so in order to find out what y equals, we will need to divide both sides by 6, and we will find out that y equals 12. Okay, so if y equals 4 when x equals 6, that means that y is 12 when x is 18. You can sometimes find a pattern that you can use instead of cross multiplying. So for example, what would you need to multiply 6 by to get 18? And you can see that in that pattern that you can multiply that times 3, right? So if you were to multiply 4 times 3, you would get 12. Okay, so sometimes those patterns are easy to see and we can definitely utilize them when we see them quickly, but sometimes those patterns are not as easy to recognize and it's just easier to cross multiply and divide. Okay. In this graphical example, it says use the graph of the direct variation function y equals 2x to predict the value of y when x is negative 1, okay? So when x is negative 1, we will come over here to our graph, right? X being negative 1, that hits the graph right here, right? When x is negative 1, y equals negative 2, okay? When x is 0, y is 0. All proportional graphs go through the origin. You probably remember that from your younger grades, 6th and 7th, but all graphs that are proportional go through the origin, which is 0, 0 right there, where the two axes intersect, okay? So we are going to now look at some word problem examples, okay? And so at the top right there, it says for direct variation word problems, remember that y varies directly with x. So what that means is when you're reading it and it says something varies directly, whatever comes first is the y. So for example, if the problem says that hats vary directly with scarves, that means that hats would be the y value and scarves would be the x value. So we would set that up hats over scarves. Okay, so for an example, we have a problem here, and it says the number of cookies that Marcia bakes varies directly with the number of hours that she is baking. Okay, so since the since the cookies comes first, that's going to be our y value. So the y is going to be the cookies. And then the x is going to be the number of hours that she spends baking, okay? So when we set up that proportion, our labels are going to be cookies over hours. And we're going to need to make sure that our numbers match up with that, okay? So it says she bakes 32 cookies every 3 hours. So how long will it take her to bake 288 cookies, right? So this x, this number of hours, is our unknown. So like we said before, sometimes you can find a pattern, but it's not as easy in this problem to see exactly what the pattern is. You probably don't know exactly what to multiply 32 by to get 288. So this is the perfect example of when we would need to cross multiply and divide. Okay, So 3 times 288, we would just go ahead and multiply. Not sure what that is, so I'm going to use my calculator. Okay, is 864. And then 32 times x is 32x, okay? It doesn't really matter which side you put the x and the number on as long as you have both of them. And then we will divide both sides by 32 in order to get our final answer. So divided by 32 gives us 27, okay? So that will be 27 hours, okay? It's gonna take Marcia 27 hours to bake 288 cookies, okay? So we can see now, what would we need to multiply 3 by to get 27 if now we know that this is 27? And 3 times 9 is 27, right? So we could check our math to see if that is going to be correct. 32 times 9, and we do get 288. So that's going to be the correct answer.